And good evening, and once again, welcome to the Shadow Gallery. I am, as always, your host, James Donnelly, and it's Monday night, got the Avengers shirt on. You know what that means. It means it's time for new comics, bitches! So, let's kick it off. I did not read the kind of official 50th anniversary issue of Amazing Spider-Man because, quite frankly, I haven't had the opportunity to yet because I haven't gotten the digital download codes yet because I'm waiting for those from my source, and I'm interested in reading it. I've heard pretty good things about it, and seems like that Slott might be back on track, but honestly I'm actually more interested in reading the B stories by Dean Haspiel and especially Josh Fialkov. And that's just more, of where I'm coming from. I would actually like to buy some of the variant covers because I know that Marcos Martin did. He has like a gallery. I don't know if this is. I don't know if it's all for this issue, but I mean it's incredible artwork, covering kind of like almost every decade of Spidey's work. So his life. So yeah. But I read just about everything else that was out there, and most of it's pretty good. So let's start. We're going to start with Ultimates number 14. So basically, one of the things that this particular issue really reminded me of, before I get too into the plot, is that this essentially is a... I felt like Sam Humphries kind of took maybe a little too much inspiration from the third act of the Avengers film. And that's fine. I don't blame him. That's certainly the right direction to go in with these guys because basically you have a lot of the same elements at work here with, of course, the absence of Hulk. But you have, basically, Cap is, he's the guy, he's the man. He's the guy who gives the orders. And, Widow's the sneaky one. Hawkeye he's essentially the eyes. And Iron Man and Thor are kind of the brains and brawn of the team. And of course Anthony gets involved because essentially they've dropped into Texas, the sovereign state, nation, whatever the hell they call themselves, because they officially have seceded from the Union. But more to the point, they are a nuclear power. They have a missile. And basically what we have here is a race against time to find out because they've launched the missile basically almost as soon as the Ultimates touch down. We've got, the team working together with Anthony, the sentient tumor, to stop the nuke from detonating. So all in all, that part of it was really exciting. But we still have this mystery man, this behind-the-scenes mystery man, Morez, who he's got the two different colored eyes, and he is he's basically the one that's telling Texas to kind of flex their muscles and everything like that, and launch the missile at New York. And then we also have he is basically blackmailing a U.S. senator in order to basically with by saying look, this is he plans on having an armed militia take control of Wyoming, and he wants the neighboring states to be able to pass through in order to provide the power that they need. And he, basically gets this senator. He gives him a very interesting national spotlight And then we also have that he is behind basically California almost becoming a sovereignty in their own right by closing off their borders. And they're wondering about border security and what they can do for that. And he has some rather interesting ideas about that. There were some interesting little tidbits here that I gleaned onto. One of them was when Thor saw the gold and the stamps that were on them, he said something about the gold actually being corrupted. And I'm wondering what he meant by that. If the emblem on that is some kind of Asgardian sigil or something like that, I don't really know, or some kind of runic symbol. I have no idea. But I think that's hopefully will be explained in later issues. I think I had two problems with this issue. One is that there's a little too much politicking going on, and that's kind of where I started to kind of drift away in the first 12 issues of Ultimate X-Men, because there's a lot of kind of talking and scheming and plotting, and that's very well and good. But I mean, and this book does keep its eye on the ball, certainly as far as the threat is concerned. But once you get into a little bit too much of that, it starts to, for me, it just kind of kept pulling me out of where it should be. I felt like that should have been more of more of something that was kind of contained near the end. But Merez, he has his fingers in all these different pies. Whatever his end game is something that we have yet to learn. So I mean, that part of it, while not extremely compelling, is still really interesting. But the other problem that I had was that I got Billy Tan and another artist, I can't remember who exactly it was, doing the pencils. And I just wasn't too keen on the art. I thought that it was, it felt a little rushed, it felt a little sloppy in places. It felt like, yes, they're trying to they're trying to keep on their deadlines, and they're trying to keep up all the this and that, and there were definitely some kind of jarring moments in the art where it's like, okay, we've definitely switched to a different penciler now. So to me, that just, like I said, it was kind of jarring. So all in all, I would say that this was it's about a 3.5 out of 5. I mean, it was good, but just I'm kind of missing Hickman, I guess, because I think he was the idea man, and Sam Humphries is more of the kind of execution kind of guy. Although, I mean, to be fair to Sam Humphries, is that he's he did a fantastic job with the last issue. The last issue was really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. This issue just could have been stronger. Now on to Punisher number 14. Just, wow, what a terrific book this has been from the get-go. This is, Greg Rucka on this title. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't he leaving? And if so, why would they want to do that? Why? I mean, I can understand, if there's an editorial issue or whatever. I mean, I know that they're starting this whole Punisher Warzone comic, I think sometime in October or whenever it's coming out, or November, something like that. And I don't know if that's going to be written by Rucka. I really hope that he stays on it. I got to read more about it, because I need to know that he's staying on this book, because if he's not, then I might think very seriously about changing him. Because look at this. I mean, come on. Garth Ennis wrote the fucking guy for, like 60 issues. And they're 60 pretty awesome issues. But, Rucka, just taking a very different tact, kind of with the approach to his character and the approach to which the, and just in the execution of Frank's story and the peripheral characters. So basically, this is Frank really, this issue really shows how adept Frank is at really kind of taking bits of everything and incorporating it into the way that he knows that his enemies do things. He's, you know, if he were not quite the, I don't know, you know, he's not psychotic. I don't think he's a sociopath, but there's definitely, I mean, if he weren't such a broken man, then, you know, he could very easily be, you know, a leader of like a major super team or something like that. I mean, I could totally see the Punisher having his own, or Frank Castle, I should say, having his own thing. But I mean, but part of him being broken is part of ultimately who he is. So I mean, that of course would never be possible. But as you see, as he kind of leads Rachel in the direction that he's been taking her, and basically kind of teaching her to deal with what's happened to her in a very unusual way. And I say unusual because what I'm getting from this dynamic that the two of them have is that this is somehow Frank's only real expression of letting someone know that he cares about them. And I think that's really the heart of this whole book, is that obviously, you know, how Rachel's story has paralleled his own, and really how Frank is showing in the ways that he can that he does care about her, and he doesn't want anything bad to happen to her. I mean, he will, of course, put her in harm's way, and he will use her as bait, as, of course, they do in this issue, because what's going on here is that they're planning on selling the, Dr. Octopus's arm, one of the parts of his arm that they stole in the last issue, back to the exchange. And so basically they're entering the lion's den. And, you know, and we see Frank at the beginning with his, he's got Iron Man's helmet, he's got Cyclops' old visor, he's got, or one of Cyclops' visors, and and one of Spidey's web shooters. So I mean, to me, that, you know, just the fact that he's culled all this different stuff from wherever he's gotten them, and now is planning on using them to help Rachel take her revenge against the Exchange. And of course, the way that it's done is done in such a masterful way. I mean, this is why Greg Rucka is like the perfect guy to do this title, is because he thinks, he's obviously very, very, very strategically minded as a writer. He knows like battleground tactics, and he knows, you know, how a small unit or even just one person can do all of this incredible stuff, and, you know, and really beat the odds. I mean, the great thing about this is that everybody knows it's a trap. You know, I mean, you know, Frank knows that Frank and Rachel know that the Exchange know it's a trap, and they let her in anyway. And it's again, it's kind of the, you know, they can't resist the opportunity to kind of, you know, bring them out in the open, of course, and they've got their nullification field on that, you know, doesn't allow for any, you know, armaments to combust in any way. You know, no grenades, no guns. You know, they've got their little, you know, whatever they are. There's little guns that they carry around that don't require any kind of combustion in order to fire. And they think that all this shit will protect them. Well, nothing protects you from the Punisher, and that should be abundantly clear to them by now. So the fact that they even take this risk, and of course, you know, spend a lot of time talking about, you know, how much of the upper hand they have, you just know that this shit is going down. Now, I do need to talk about the art in this issue, because it's good. You know, Suyam, however you pronounce his name, is he's a good artist, but I'm really missing Marco Cicchetto, and that is really the only hindrance from making this like an absolute pick of the week, because the art is just a little iffy in places, but the story is just, it's phenomenal, and Rucka's just does a great job on delivering what we pretty much want to see. And that's something that's interesting, is that he does it without pandering. He gives us what we want, but he doesn't do it he doesn't do it in an inorganic way. I guess that's what I mean to say, is that we don't get from point A to point B where anything along the line feels like it's out of place, where it's just designed to make it feel really cool. So that is one of the reasons that I love an issue like this. And so an absolute 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5 for the Punisher number 14. Secret Avengers number 30. This absolutely my favorite issue of this book since Ennis's run, because basically we have the Secret Avengers in basically this little city state in which it's basically run by all of the a lot of the big and some of the smaller time criminals. And the first kind of opening melee here is that we have a fight between Venom, or at least what is thought to be just kind of the alien version of Venom, but of course it's really Flash Thompson underneath, and Taskmaster. Now Taskmaster is one of my very favorite characters, one of my very favorite villains, and alternately, potentially a very cool anti-hero in the Marvel Universe. Is that, because I've seen both the Fred Van Lente miniseries that they did very recently was just awesome, and it's just finding out more about his character and just the way that he really plays around with them. And Remender writes the living shit out of Taskmaster. That is one thing that he does extremely well. And it's interesting, just little character moments that that Taskmaster has. Just as for instance, he's saying lines from Ghostbusters because he has no real memory of his own, so he kind of builds off of things that he's seen. Again, all his whole his whole photoeidetic memory, or eidetic memory, and just all of these things that he can do. I mean, he's such a great foil at all times for anybody who happens to be after him. He's just like one of the supreme badasses in the Marvel Universe. And basically what we have here is that Max Fury and his his great big huge Masters of Evil cabal they're looking to get the 3 different crowns: the Serpent Crown, the Wolf Crown, and the whatever else crown. Basically, they're all supposed to be together, and they open up this incredible power, to something that is beyond human comprehension. And basically we have a lot of twisty-turny stuff going on within this issue. We've got double crosses, triple crosses. We've got a great little moment with Ant-Man, and no pun intended on the little part, but and we know that Eric O'Grady he's one of the Adaptoids, and but just playing this role is still, it still feels like it's him when he needs to be an Avenger. but Hawkeye and Hank Pym's the work that Pym does, and how he always Hawkeye, how he explains to Valkyrie why he insisted on Hank Pym getting being on the team. And there's just there's some really great back and forth dialogue, particularly between I don't know the faux Ghost Rider's character's name. Isn't it supposed to be Penance? Even though of course there is another Penance, but it's something like that. I can never fucking remember. Just the back and forth, and all of these things. Just there's a lot of great dialogue here. This and a hell of an ending. This is looking really, really exciting and very epic, which is what I don't see nearly enough of with this series. Just an incredibly entertaining book, an absolute 4.5 out of 5 for Secret Avengers number 30. This is really kind of, so far, has been Remender's high point on this book. Moving on to the independents. So from Image, we have America's Got Powers, number 3. Now this is a book that obviously doesn't come out as often as we would like it to, but that's mostly due to the fact that Brian Hitch, is co-plotting and is doing all of the art with, but is co-plotting, and the script writer is Jonathan Ross. Again, I don't know exactly who that is. I know that he's isn't he like a reality TV host in Great Britain? I don't know. But all I can tell you is that they are, he's really writing the hell out of this series. And he's making it very unusual and very cool, because basically what we've got here in this issue is that we have the discovery of this kind of secret government installation where they take a lot of the crystals, basically, the crystal children, and they do these really terrible things to them. I mean, basically they have this machine that they call the Transformer, with a Z, and it basically, they're hatching children. And they take, basically this machine, it takes powers from someone who already has them and distributes them to others, and to the children, so that basically they have their perfect little soldiers, because this is ultimately the whole kind of military-industrial complex is very much kind of coming into play here. But we also have our our guide into this world. We have Tommy, who is now being called Zero, because he doesn't have a power rating, but he was in the first issue, obviously he was able to do this tremendous display of power. And what we also we're getting some new cast members here. These very strange looking superhumans, that whether or not they are kind of children of the crystal remains to be seen, but they're basically looking to bust Tommy out. They want him. He is kind of everybody sees him, including our doctor character and our and everybody else. They see him as potentially the most powerful of all of them. But once, of course, the America's Got Powers match begins, things start to go all pear-shaped. And this is where the book really starts to shine, because, I mean, not only Brian Hitch's art is just amazing, but just the way that the story is told, with just almost little throwbacks to maybe like, Silver or Bronze Age, where they actually show the character's face alongside their little, dialogue, insert that they have. That's happening over the action, as opposed to just either having it a different color. I mean, that's a really nice touch, and I really enjoyed that. Basically, what we have, that we have this, this underground movement, like I said, that wants to break Tommy out. Basically, the the whole thing here is that everybody wants a piece of Tommy. But we have this really, really awesome ending in which we're basically shown that, well, maybe Tommy doesn't have these powers anymore, or if they do, they're still extremely latent. And so it's just this is a really entertaining series, not only for its satirical element, but just because it has a really good emotional core to it. You know, with Tommy's mother, you know, constantly kind of worrying. I mean, of course, and what happened to Tommy's brother. You know, all of these things these are the impetus to move the story forward. And you know, it's better to have, you know, an emotionally based arc rather than just a merely action-based arc. So everything has to revolve around character and the building of that character, or the tearing down of that character. Just, you know, and Hitch, I mean, God, he just kills it on the art with this series. And, you know, this is just, it's a really exciting series, really good read. It got a little confusing, to be quite honest, at parts. There were some moments where it was just like, wait, what did I just see? And whether or not they are significant, again, that will come later, hopefully. Or it will just be one of those things that never gets explained, and I hope that isn't the case. But, you know, one way or the other, this is a really strong comic, and a very strong issue of this comic, despite the fact that it does get a little bit on the confusing side. So, but very much 4.5 out of 5 for America's Got Powers #3. So moving on to DC. We have Before Watchmen, Dr. Manhattan, #1. So we've got Straczynski and Adam Hughes teaming up on this title, and we've got Hughes bringing interior art, the first interior art that I've seen from Hughes in a really long time. And basically he has, you know, we get to see Dr. Manhattan and his, you know, big blue glowing dong wandering around basically the Gila Flats area, and we are basically shown kind of not his origins, but his past. It's basically he's taking this big trip down memory lane and finds out that the past isn't everything that it used to be. We have a lot of discussion in this issue, a lot of quantum theory that's happening here. Because, you know, for instance, like, you know, he sees Silk Spectre in the first meeting of the Crime Busters. Because, again, we have, all this kind of clockwork imagery. We have, you know, it's just replete with Easter eggs. You know, I mean, just from the very beginning, where he opens up this box, this gift that he's being given, I think, as a 9-year-old, and it's basically the clock that he eventually turns into his great, you know, Martian castle, if you will, this great big floating, you know, clockwork castle that he manufactures for himself. And, you know, discusses how that, you know, and we get all of these, you know, historical events, you know, kind of mixed in here and there. But, you know, the main thing is what we start to see is that he sees himself existing in 2 separate timelines. One, you know, and this really, like I said, it really happens at where this really takes off. This idea is that when he basically switches his partner from Rorschach to his partner being Laurie, to being Silk Spectre. And he does that because he knows that in this reality, this is what's supposed to happen, despite the fact that he's changed it. But he's changed it according to what he understands of his past, of his future. And we, of course, you know, then we are then treated to, you know, moments of, you know, his youth where it's very much about control. Basically, you know, the theme of this book is really about control. And what he wants to do is see basically kind of what his other self would be like in this other quantum existence. And so he does actually travel back into time to 1959 at Gila Flats to kind of watch John Osterman, who he believes, basically he's looking at him as a completely separate entity now. He is no longer John Osterman. And, you know, there's a lot of imagery as far as the gears and things like that. And we see that with, you know, at the end of this issue that John Osterman, he actually enters the, he enters the device. I can't remember exactly what it's called. The chamber, and, you know, to get the watch that he had fixed for God damn it, Janie Slater, and he walks out, and Dr. Manhattan is left there thinking, wait, what just happened? Because this was supposed to, I was supposed to go in that box, and I was supposed to be changed. But in this reality that he's in right now, it doesn't happen. So what we get here ultimately, now, J. Michael Straczynski is a writer that I've had a lot of problems with over the years. I hated his run with a passion on Amazing Spider-Man. But he also has done stuff that I really have enjoyed. Like some of his work on Squadron Supreme. And I really enjoyed Superman Earth 1. So, I mean, I know that he's capable of doing really good work. And what he puts in here is an extremely thoughtful book with a lot of really kind of far out there ideas. And Adam Hughes, I mean, his art obviously is just deadly good. I mean, it's, you know, it's so sumptuous. But this issue is the perfect example of why, like, a Dr. Manhattan solo book would have never worked, and really only works best in the context of Watchmen. And we have, because basically it's too, and I hate to use a word like this, but it's a little bit too academic. It's a little, and I know that the character is academic, and he is not sterile, but it's very cold and very distant, and you can't really feel a connection to this character other than his confusion once things start to go differently. And that's really the only part where you start to really get a sense of, okay, well, this is definitely different, and it's an interesting direction. And to be quite honest, this is the only book that I've read other than Minutemen, which I, you know, hope gets kind of more back on track after the second issue, which was just awful. But the only one of kind of the solo books that I would consider picking up again, because I did enjoy reading this book. I don't think it's great by any stretch of the imagination, but I didn't think it was terrible either. And I don't even think it's bad in any way, shape, or form. I actually think this is a pretty good book. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I mean, I think it's a very interesting idea conceptually. Whether or not it will work for more than one issue, I don't know. But it is interesting. I do have to give them that. So like I said, 3.5 out of 5 for Straczynski and Hughes's Dr. Manhattan #1. So on to DC. So Justice League Dark #12. All I have to say is thank God that Jeff Lemire took over this title, or else I wouldn't even be reading it. and Mikhail Janin, doing massive work on the art, just terrific. Basically, we have here kind of not the origins, but or a very abbreviated origin of Dr. Mist, and why exactly he has chosen to betray his allies. And it all, of course, stems from the fact that his wife died, and he has been doing whatever he could to bring her back, which is why he got, he was originally a doctor, a medical doctor, and has changed himself into a kind of master of arcane arts. Sounds a little familiar, but the comparisons pretty much end there to Stephen Strange. But basically we have him and Faust. He doesn't want to team up with Faust, but he sees it as obviously a means to an end. That if he can get his hands on one of the books of magic, I think particularly the Book of Death, then he will be able to resurrect his wife and bring his love back to life. So in the meantime, we have after this betrayal, we have the team kind of getting back together, if you will, with Black Orchid and Constantine and Zatanna and Deadman, who's looking, he starts out, after all of this kind of combat, he's looking very gaunt. he's not looking very healthy, even for a ghost. Of course, we still have Madame Xanadu back in England, who's talking to Tim Hunter, who basically has explained that he has used all of his magic. He has exorcised all of his magic from his body. And, this leads to even more confusion for her, because she doesn't know who exactly is supposed to kind of stop John Constantine from when he does, in her prophetic visions of him having all of the books of magic and bringing along basically an Armageddon. Again, kind of tying in with, some of the prophetic visions that we've seen in Swamp Thing and in Animal Man. But of course, the whole, kind of idea is kind of divide and conquer, is that, Constantine and Black Orchid go to go to the House of Mystery, and they use it to basically transport themselves extremely quickly towards an area of Gotham called Slaughter Swamp, in which they're basically tracking, kind of residual magic. And Tana and Deadman are going to Peru, back to Faust's hideout, because that seems to be where one trail of magic has also led. So we have a lot of just really, really excellent character moments. We have a brief explanation that dips back into the history of Constantine before he became a star, in which we see from the Swamp Thing arc, A Murder of Crows, where that he is indirectly responsible for the death of Zatara, and and how he gathered basically to stop. If you've read the story, then you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, do yourself a favor, go on Amazon, go on eBay, do whatever you need to do to get the 6 trade paperbacks of Alan Moore's run on Swamp Thing, because not only is it some of the best comic writing that came out of the 80s, that appeared in a regular ongoing series, but it's some of the best comic books ever. So, but moving along, so, and just, these little moments like, Constantine, as soon as he kind of snaps out of it, and at the beginning, he just lights up a smoke, and, he actually, later on, as they're going through Slaughter Swamp, he uses his cigarette as kind of a guide. He casts a little spell on it. But we have this cloaked in mystery and in darkness, this character, also a smoker, also has a tattoo that Constantine had on his own wrist. And who is this guy? And we also have, for instance, we have he's the guy who's running the show with Dr. Mist and with Faust. He's the one that seems to really want the books of magic more than anybody else. He goes, whoever this character is, goes to the House of Secrets to meet none other than Dr. Occult. Again, also hearkening back to that, to that issue of Swamp Thing so many, many years ago. There's a certain point where kind of a slavish devotion to previous work can get to be a little bit too much, can get to be a little bit too overbearing. It was funny because I was recently watching Superman Returns, which is a film that I think more than anything, it's a film that has all of these individual awesome moments, but coherently as a film doesn't work because of its incredibly slavish devotion to Richard Donner's Superman films. And while that can kind of feel good at some points, it also feels really strange and creepy and weird. So to see what Lemire has done here with this kind of, very much looking backwards to, story arcs that are, almost 30 years old, it takes a little bit, it could conceivably take the character out of where they are, but being the good soul that Jeff Lemire is, he does give us context. He gives us that moment in which Zatara dies, so that we don't have to just, go back, where he says, well, because I killed her father, when Constantine says that, we don't have to know what happened in Swamp Thing to know how it happens here, because we do get to see it. And I think is the most important part of how it differentiates itself from something like Superman Returns, where it's, I know that that's a weird comparison to make, but just in that kind of slavish devotion to source material. So, just all in all, I'm dying to find out what's going to happen next and who this mystery character is, because the last the last page of this does hint at, because Constantine and Zatanna do have a past together, and it's a romantic one, and almost certainly a sexual one, and my theory is this: this is somehow their child. That's my theory. That's where I'm going with right now. I think that might be a little bit of sleight of hand, though, because I think that's what Lemire probably wants us to think, but I don't think it actually is at the same time. So I'm very much, I'd be interested to see exactly who this is, because it's somebody, obviously, that people know, but don't know. And that's where I'm very curious to see where this is going to lead. We also have, these, Blackbriar Thorn, this kind of living, basically kind of like the nightmare version of the Entmoots, or the Ents, excuse me, in Lord of the Rings. And then we have Black Boris, the cannibal king of the fire trolls. I mean, just what an awesome introduction to a character that, I'm Black Boris, the cannibal king of the fire trolls. And it's just like, oh my god, this is so awesome. And just, what a great job. I mean, these are books that, if on any other week, these would be almost automatic picks of the week. But, I mean, this, while being very, very good, is still a little too shrouded in stuff that I just maybe don't know that much about. I mean, this whole kind of Tim Hunter thing and what's going on with that. Obviously, I know that Ghost Critic knows a lot more about this than I do, so But still, an excellent book, an excellent read, an absolute solid 4.5 out of 5 for Justice League Dark number 12. May Lemire continue on this book for even longer. Now on to the picks of the week, of which there are 3. First one that we're going to talk about is The Flash, number 12. This is absolutely 100% by far the best issue of this comic so far. For one thing, we have Francis Manapul is back on art. Yes. So it looks gorgeous. And we have Barry as the Flash, of course, because nobody knows that Barry is still alive, but as the Flash has a little bit of a confrontation with Dr. Elias. Now, whether Dr. Elias is maybe a little bit of a sociopath or something like that, he's just an extreme scumbag. That basically he's manufactured as a social experiment all of this anti-Flash sentiment. And this is a guy that he considered to be a friend, and so it's very strange because he helped him out early on. So I mean, it's like, how could he not? Why did he turn on him? And it's all because he wanted to. He wanted to see what would happen, because his name is Darwin Elias after all. So I mean, he must be a big brain, but he's one of those extremely disassociated big brains, and is just an epic scumbag. And of course, we have this new character that appears to be Len Snart's sister, and she moves at a rate that's so fast that even the Flash has to stay kind of at the vibrating speed on the same frequency as her in order to even see her. But most importantly in this issue, we have rogues. We have rogues. We have all the rogues. We've got Captain Cold. We've got Heatwave. We've got Mirror Master. We've got the Trickster. We've got Weather Wizard. And then there's this new character that is basically kind of the leader now. And we have, of course, the Pied Piper, who everybody really has a big problem with, because he's gone to kind of the right side of law and order, if you will. And so everybody's kind of looking to put a hurt on him, but even more so than him, they're looking to put, the rest of the rogues are looking to put a serious hurt on not just the Flash, but on Captain Cold. So we have kind of echoes of Rogue's Revenge from Final Crisis, but more importantly, it's made distinctly enough so that it feels like that Manapul and Buccellato did this on their own, that they created a whole new idea for the Rogues and a Rogues War that would be just astounding, and it is magical. I mean, first of all, Manapul's, just his panel construction, and just the way that he, that he separates panel to panel, but just keeps up this level of energy that is consistent through this whole book, and it is just, it's rogues, man, it's rogues. And it's like, if there is a character that has as many cool rogues in the DC universe, I mean, obviously it first has to go to Batman. He's got the coolest rogue gallery of any hero, with maybe the only other exception being Spider-Man. But Flash definitely has, I would say, as far as DC is concerned, definitely has the most impressive other rogues gallery. So, and it's really exciting to see them all in the same title again, and where this is going from here, because this is leading up again to something severely fucking epic. And we got a Flash annual coming out this week. I don't know if it's going to be picking up on this story, or if we're going to have to wait until, you know, more information about issue 0. I was a little bit dismayed by the fact that they kind of took that there's still, you know, this whole story with Iris and everybody that's kind of lost in the Speed Force and what's going on with them. But they really basically just said, okay, we need to put this on the back burner for this issue because we've got rogues. And the rogues are the fucking shit. And that's where this needs to go. So just an amazing issue, flat out, just incredible, you know, absolute 5 out of 5 for the Flash number 12. This was a really hard week to pick what was going to be my pick of the week, because I love them, these 2 issues, I love them both almost equally, which is why the number 2 spot, which I'm surprised, I've been seeing some other reviews out there and I haven't seen this one being brought up very often, but that is IDW's Rocketeer Cargo of Doom. And if you need any reason to pick up this particular miniseries, it is Mark Waid and Chris Samney. They're basically one reason with 2 people. Because these 2 partnering up again, as they've been doing all along with, or not all along, but with Daredevil, is a magical combination. And that is exactly what this issue is. This issue is a magical tribute to the work of Dave Stevens. And, you know, basically what we have here is they just do such an incredible job of giving Cliff Secord and PV and Betty some new cast members and a new adventure, a new mystery, a new threat, and new love stories, maybe. So basically what we have here is that it opens up, you know, with the Rocketeer having to come to the rescue of PV's niece, Sally, who is a flyer in her own right and is also a very good mechanic. But basically, there is, it's 1940, there's, you know, this kind of government, this G-man named Feeney, who is basically trying to, as they put it in the comic book, get fresh with the young Sally while they're flying together. And of course this leads to the plane spinning out of control, and thus the Rocketeer must come to the rescue. And then we have, once that rescue is completed, we go to this mysterious ship with these very mysterious characters on board, and something very, very, very deadly within their cargo hold. And we have this this German, I'm not really sure if he's supposed to be like a former, like, you know, a Nazi, or if just, you know, part of that kind of movement, but he's definitely a villain. And he's had some, well, some issues, let's just put it that way. And he definitely has a problem with coming to Los Angeles. And it all has to do with Cliff Secord. But what we also have going on here is that Sally, the little tomboy that she is, has a serious crush on Cliff. And we have Betty, looking gorgeous as always. Basically there, she's always kind of there. She's either, her character is not this, you know, specifically defined, but she's there to be kind of the, you know, to be the woman that Cliff can kind of only dream of being with or keeping. Or she's the woman that is his inspiration, or she's the woman that's always kind of harping on him because he keeps missing their dates. We've just, the way in which Wade and Samney present this issue is just, it's pure, it's pure entertainment. It is incredibly fun. It's incredibly entertaining read. It's told in a very smart way. Samney's art is just heartbreakingly good, and it's just, the fact that this poor young girl Sally eventually confides in the Rocketeer. She doesn't know is Cliff Secord, about what exactly happened on the plane, why it all kind of went down that way. And we have some pretty serious issues that are being dealt with that. And it's important. I think that it's important to step back from all the kind of pulpy fun that they're having to bring some to bring some drama to it. And it's just lovely the way that every moment in this comic is played out, and how everything is inching towards more significant character moments, more significant danger, more significant mystery. And I can just from this first issue alone, this is going to be a really, really, really good ride. And it's a terrific issue. I loved every moment of it, and an absolute 5 out of 5. Perfect score for Rocketeer Cargo of Doom #1. But ultimately, old loves win the day, and the pick of the week is I, Vampire #12. Because basically what we have here is Stormwatch appears. So we've got Jack Hawksmoor, we've got Midnighter, and we've got Apollo coming on board to basically throw themselves into the fray in the midst of all of this vampire hunter madness that's going on below, while Andrew Bennett is trying to keep it all at bay. He's trying his damnedest to do what he can to make sure that no one else gets hurt, and to kind of help or save his the vampires that he's led, even though that he knows, again, he seems to at some points kind of abandon the whole kind of, he doesn't abandon his morals per se, but he kind of establishes himself sometimes more as an anti-hero rather than a straight-up hero, especially with his newfangled powers, because he's basically he almost has godlike abilities, and that shows very distinctly in this issue, because we have Bennett and Tig and Troughton and Mary, again in this fight, and then we have like I said, Stormwatch coming in, Apollo using his abilities to in new ways that he finds out. I mean, there's so much humor in this particular issue. There's some really, really funny stuff, because they do have the beginnings of what just could have been kind of an extended meet cute, fight cute type of scenario. But Fialkov is such a smart writer that he quickly casts that aside, and even kind of comments on it in the book itself through dialogue. And not to force it down anybody's throat, but just because that's normally the kind of expectation that we would get from a comic where, okay, when you have two heroes that don't fully understand each other when they start to fight, well, you know, we usually expect that fight to go on for a long time until you get to this impasse in which, okay, well, we're both on the same side, so let's work together. But like I said, it's very much sidestepped very quickly in favor of propelling the plot forward. And but also in keeping with the character moments. Now, I'm not already familiar with Stormwatch and these characters, but I do enjoy them. You know, some of the stuff that I have read peripherally to, you know, with these characters. And, you know, like I said, I mean, it's just, this is a book that is jam-packed with excellent, excellent character moments that define who they are in the meaning, you know, in the midst of all of this, and in the context of this, of their own characters, and which is very important when you have a crossover. This isn't a crossover, and it's not going to extend into Stormwatch, but just what a... And then we have this ending, which I am not going to spoil if you held a gun to my head, but it is unfucking real. It is just, it's beyond belief. It is the ultimate cliffhanger, and you're on the edge of your seat the whole time anyway, if you're just kind of incredibly amused with everything that's going on from, you know, from a dialogue standpoint, but also from the action that's going on with him trying to contain with Andrew Bennett and all of the other heroes trying to contain what's going on, but they're massively overwhelmed, and you just, you know, the danger, the tension keeps ramping up, and then we have this moment in which everything seems to be solved, but a whole new problem has just emerged, and this could be the worst problem of them all. So, and of course I can't go for any issue of iVampire without commenting on the art of Andrea Sorrentino. His work is just, it's to die for. It's so incredibly good and so perfect for this title. If you're not reading iVampire, you need to start reading it. I know that the fucking first trade doesn't come out until October, which is ridiculous to me, but, you know, it's just sometimes the way it goes, and this is just, it's a masterstroke of storytelling. It is A+++++. This was just a beyond perfect book, a 5+ out of 5 for iVampire number 12. Start reading this book. And Ghost Critic, you tweeted me the other day, thank you, Mark, for taking my advice. I know that you won't be disappointed. And if you are, just send me the bill for all of the back issues that you just bought off of eBay. So, but anyway, that's it for this week's New Comics, bitches! So, I will also be putting up a Drive Time rant in which I will be talking about basically the newly announced Justice League of America title that will have Jeff Johns and David Finch on it. So that you will either watch before or after this. It'll probably be before because it's a short one. It's only about 16 minutes. But this, we're closing, you know, so closing on an hour 4, so we're out of here. So again, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to thumb it up. You know, like I said, always welcoming comments, criticisms, complaints. You know, again, shouting out to you there. You know, is there a topic video that you would like to see me do that I haven't already done? Because I know that I've done a lot of them, and they haven't been specifically like reader request, you know, viewer request videos, but I'd like to see some of that. So let's, you know, give some of that. Give me some feedback. Let me know what's going on. how you feel, what you want to see me talk about, if it's at all possible that I can talk about it in a space that maybe isn't this long. So again, here's to all you out there who continue to watch week after week. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart. You stick with me for a long time. You stick with these, you watch these videos. I know it's longer than an episode of pretty much anything that's on TV right now. So, but it's not as long as your feature films, at least not anymore. Unless we get to one of those really big weeks in which I do read like 20 titles, in which case we might have to split that up for the next one. So, again, James Donnelly signing off for the Shadow Gallery and reminding you, as always, stay in the shadow.